All right, y'all. We got a great guest tonight that's going to share some information that everybody on the planet needs. All of us need this. Credit. That's something that we all need, and more capital, more money. We could all use some more money. What would you do with it? Buy more real estate, more crypto, invest in yourself. So tonight we got an expert on that, and he's going to be giving us a lot of free information. So what I recommend, get your pen, paper out. Um, I'm gonna have his link, his contact information, so you all can follow up with Steve. So I ain't taking up no more time because he got some great information. The floor is yours.
Nah, man, I appreciate you having me on. So yeah, as Chan said, my name is Steve. I'm the owner of Legacy Consultations, and what we do is we help people get funding. I know if y'all on Instagram, y'all see like everybody says they do funding, but does everybody really do funding? So what qualifies me to do is my background. Before I was doing this, I was in banking for 17 years. I worked any position inside the branch, you name it, I was. All the way from a teller all the way up to a senior sales rep. I'm sorry, a senior sales manager. When I left banking, I was at a bank called Key Bank. And when I left, I was number one in the entire company when it came to business funding. So not just number one on the East Coast, not just number one in the region. We talking about the entire company. So when I do business funding, when I teach it, it's all from a banking perspective, and that just allows the people I deal with to expedite their success and their results. I don't know if you were on here right before the call, but Chen was saying like funding scares people, right? Like people are scared to get funding, and it's probably what we grew up on, right? If y'all grandma was like mine, she would say stuff like, don't get credit cards because they put you in debt, right? That's not true. Credit cards don't put you in debt. Misusing a credit card will put you in debt. But you think about it, like let's say you get $150,000 in revolving business funding, you're in debt $0. You're only in debt when you use it, and you only in debt the amount that you use, right? So if I get 150 and I spend 10 of it, I'm only in debt that 10,000. I don't owe the entire 150. As I pay that money back, it's available to me again. All right. So, business funding has a ton of benefits. And I want everybody to have the mindset of when it comes to business funding, it's not a recommendation. Business funding is not a want. It is a need. Right? It is a need to get business funding. Without business funding, your business will not succeed. It is going to fail. I got 22 years of experience. I've seen it all. I've seen people try to do it out of pocket. They end up messing their credit. They end up messing their credit up. They end up losing their savings, and now they're in a worse spot. Right? I've seen people try to, just not do business funding, but you have to have the funding. You can grow your business faster, you can scale it faster, and it's not really you paying for it, right? It's the bank paying for things for you. So now your monthly overhead is lower, which means you're able to keep more money in your pocket. So tonight, we're gonna talk about how to get business funding, how to qualify for it, and just all those steps. So uh we're gonna get right into it. A lot of people online overcomplicate it when it comes to business funding. When it comes to business funding, it's really only two requirements. All right, it's really only two requirements. The first requirement is you got to have a business. All right, so all y'all that's in the chat right now, if you have a business, right, LLC, S corp, nonprofit. If you have a business, put a one in the chat. I want to see who I'm talking to. If you have a business, put a one in the chat. All right, so Chen got business. All right, anybody else got business? All right, Zandra, anybody else got business? LLC, S corp, C corp, nonprofit. Okay, okay. So for all y'all got business, y'all halfway there. Okay. The only other qualification is good credit. That's it. If you have a business and good credit, you can get funding. If you have a business and maintain that good credit, you can get business funding forever. So let's break down, what these things really mean. Right. So I said a business, right? I wanna see who was listening. Um, how old did I say your business had to be in order to get funding? Y'all can put it in the chat. How old did I say your business had to be in order to get business funding? Anybody want to take a shot? How old your business gotta be to get business funding? I didn't. Yes, that's thing. Most people, for whatever reason, it's a misconception out there. People feel like your business gotta be at least 2 years old to get business funding. Not true. You know how old your business gotta be? 1 second. 1 second old. You create a business, boom, it's eligible for business funding. All right, you gotta think about it, right? If banks didn't fund new businesses, there would be no new small businesses because you need that to succeed. You need the business funding to succeed. So 1 second, once that business created, congratulations and get funded. The also I said a business. I did not say it has to be a profitable business. Your business can make $0. It can make $100. It can take a loss. Doesn't matter. You can get funding. When I created my business, my first business, it was 1 week old. Think about it, 1 week. I had no clients. I damn sure ain't make no money in 1 week. I went to PNC Bank. They gave me $20,000. And I went to Navy Fed. They gave me $25,000 for a brand new business. Within that first week, I got $45,000 in business funding, which allowed and enabled me to grow my business like at an expedited pace. So as long as you just got to create the business, the age doesn't matter, the profitability doesn't matter. As long as you meet the second requirement, which is having good credit. Now, I'm asking y'all this here, in the chat. I do love participation. When you hear the phrase good credit, what's the first thought that pops in your head? Go ahead, throw it in the chat. The first thing that pops in your head when you hear the term good credit. 780, 700. Anybody else? 700 score, okay. Can we get one more? We got 700, 780, 700, 650. All right, cool. I appreciate y'all participating. All right, 850. All right. So most people get that answer, right? Most people give a variety of scores, anywhere from like 650 all the way up to 850. Your score by itself means nothing. You could have a 750 and not be eligible for anything. You could have a 780 and not be eligible for everything. There could be somebody with a 680 that can get more funding than somebody with 780. All right. Your score by itself means nothing. Now, your score is important, right? Your score gets you in the door. But the underwriter, right? These are the people who make the decisions of if they're going to approve you or not. They don't just look at your score and say approve. They don't just look at your score and say denied, right? They look at your entire credit profile. Your profile is everything that goes in to making up your score. All right. Your profile is everything that goes in to making up your score. So let's talk about a profile, right? What makes up a profile? So the most important thing, right? The most important thing on your credit profile, your derogatory accounts, your charge-offs, your collections, your repos, right? These are things that over an extended period of time, you are not paying, right? Over an extended period of time, you are not paying. Having just one charge-off, one collection, one repo, just having one derogatory account is going to prevent you from getting funded just by having one of them. All right. The reason one can do that because you don't get a charge off overnight, right? You don't get a collection overnight. We're talking 6 to 9 months if you're not paying something. So from an underwriter's point of view, they're looking at it like, all right, if you already for 6 months, for 7 months, for 8 months, you weren't paying this person to lend you money, why am I gonna go ahead and lend you money? That's more of a risk for me, right? So that's just one can prevent you from getting funded. If your derogatory accounts are the most important, that's one, then 1A, your repayment history. How often do you pay things on time? All right, so late payments show up on your credit report in 30-day increments. So if your payment's due the 15th and you pay it the 20th, you might get a late payment with your bank, but you're not going to get a late payment on your credit report because, like I said, they only show up 30-day increments. So 30 days late, 60 days late, 90 days late, 120 days late. We prefer you to have no late payments, all right? But life happens, things happen. So at most, you could have one late payment, and it's got to be at least 6 months old. All right, you could have one 30-day late payment, and it has to be at least 6 months old if you're eligible for funding. All right, the reason it can't be like 2 months old is because they see, hey, something happened, but they want to see like, was it a change in your life? Did you lose your job and now you can't pay things, right? So 2 months old is recent. If it's 6 months old, they can see, okay, you know what? Yeah, we see everything was good. You had that late payment, but everything's been good since then. It was probably a reason for this, right? You could have been sick. You could have been dealing with family issues. It could have been, a justifiable reason, but it doesn't count towards, your character. All right, it doesn't count towards your character. Now utilization is the next thing. Right, utilization. When we talking utilization, we talking credit cards and lines of credit. So what it is your balance divided by your limit. So we're gonna use simple math. If your total limits on your cards is $10,000, and you spend 9,000. 9 out of 10 utilization at 90%. If you spend 1,000, 1 out of 10 utilization at 10%. The lower your utilization, the higher your credit score. The higher utilization, the lower your credit score. Everybody here is 30%, right? 30%. That's the magic number. You cannot exceed that number when going for funding. But people think that when you hit the 30% mark is when your score starts to go down. That's not true. Like if you go from 5% utilization to 10%, your score is still going to go down. All right. But you don't want to be above 30%. And we're talking overall utilization, not just for one card. So if you got 10 cards at 10,000 a piece and you max out one card, but every other card is at zero, right? So you max out one card, that one card is at 100% utilization. But overall, you only get 10% utilization, so you can still get funding. All right. So every card doesn't have to be under 30%. We just talk about overall, you got to be under 30%. Inquiries would be the next thing. All right. Every time you go for any type of funding, business, personal, they're going to pull your credit with they're going to pull your credit because they determine whether or not you're eligible, whether or not you're credit worthy. So every time you do that, it doesn't drop your score much, like 3 to 7 points. But the more inquiries you have, the more it looks like you need money. And banks don't want to lend to people who look like they need money. So, one of the benefits of business funding, you can remove the inquiries, right? So if I go to Chase Bank and I apply for a personal card with Chase Bank, I want 25,000, and they give me 1,000. I'm burnt. I got to eat that inquiry for 2 years, right? Because inquiry stay in your report for 2 years. So for 2 years, I got to stick with that inquiry. If I go to Chase Bank and apply for a business credit card, right? Approved, denied, 20,000, 1,000, doesn't matter. I can remove the inquiry. And the reason being, I'm what's called the PG, right? The personal guarantor. That means they're going to pull my personal credit to see if I'm eligible for business funding. So that inquiry is going to show up on my personal credit report. Okay. But that product, this business credit card, shows up on my business credit report. So if you look at my personal credit report, you will never see this card from Chase. So technically, this product or this inquiry is not attached to a product on my credit report, so it could be removed. And that's vital when it comes to funding, because you think about it, right? I said your business doesn't have to be profitable. I said your business doesn't have to be old. So if you have a business, whether it's 2 months old or 2 years old, as long as you have the good credit, let's say you go to 5 banks and get funding. Now you got 5 inquiries, right? But now you remove those 5 inquiries, and now you go to bank number 6. That 6th bank won't see those 5 inquiries because they already removed, and they won't see them 5 products you got because they on your business credit report. But the bank's only looking at your personal credit report. So to that bank, it doesn't let you got anything, right? It doesn't let you got any new products. So now they can lend more to you. Where if you did on the personal side, once you get to like 3 or 4 inquiries, they're like, nah, like you tapped out for now. That's one of the benefits of business funding. Another benefit of business funding, which I should have talked about before when we talked about utilization, was utilization doesn't exist on the business side. It doesn't exist on the business side. You can max out your business cards. It will have absolutely no negative effect on your personal credit. And it's for the same reason we just talked about. These business cards don't report to your personal credit. So maxing them out doesn't affect your personal credit. Banks know, banks understand, and banks want you to use your cards because you're using the grow and scale of your business. So they know you're going to be using your cards, so it doesn't count towards your utilization. All right. The next aspect of your profile, we talking your credit age. Okay. How long have you had credit? You want to have credit at minimum for 6 months to a year before going for funding. All right. 6 months to a year before you're going for any type of funding. Banks don't just want to see that you have the products. They want to see that you have a history. They want to see that you use these cards or you use these products and you use them correctly. So if you're somebody who just started building your credit, you're doing the right thing. You just got to give it a little more time. You got to give it a little more time before you could get funding. If you're self-employed, same thing. They still want to look at your credit. So, whether you're applying for personal funding, business funding, they're still going to pull your personal credit, and they want to see that you've had it for, at least 6 months to a year before you're eligible for any type of funding. The last part that goes into your credit profile, which really isn't that important, is just your credit mix. Credit mix is just talking about your revolving products and your installment products. Revolving is what we talked about. Your credit cards, your lines of credit, things that they give you the availability. You only pay on them when you use them. And as you pay to them, they make them available to you again. Installment is things that have an end date. Your mortgage, your auto loan, student loans, personal loans, right? Things that every month is due the same date, it's the exact same amount. They want to see you have a mix, but you don't have to have that to get funding. All right, so that's what goes up into your credit profile. Now, the last part that qualifies you for funding, but doesn't go into your profile, it's the limits on your personal credit cards. All right, the higher the limits on your personal credit cards, the more you're gonna be able to get on the business side. It's a term in banking. It's called comparable credit, and that just means comparing the credit that you have to the credit that you want. All right, so let's say your highest limit personal card is 5,000. Can you get business funding? Yes, but you probably gonna max out at like maybe $7,500 per card on the business side because you never proven that you can handle a card with a higher limit. Where let's say your highest limit personal card is like, 20,000, 25,000. That's going to automatically open you up to higher amounts on the business side because you already proven you can handle cards with that high of a limit. If your highest card is $500, you're not eligible for business funding right now. You have to go through credit building, right? You have to build and increase the amounts of your current cards to be eligible for business funding. So if you want to know if you're eligible for funding, I'm gonna right now, I'm gonna go over the requirements. I'm gonna go over the bare minimums, right? Meaning if you hit each of these bare minimums, you can get funding, but you're gonna be getting the minimums. All right. If you exceed them, then you're gonna be eligible for more. So we talk about the minimum requirements for funding. You gotta have a credit score of at least 680. All right, so that's the lowest credit score they want, 680. No derogatory accounts, no charge-offs, no collections, no repos, nothing like that. We prefer no late payments, but if you have one, it could only be a 30-day and it has to be at least 6 months old. We don't want more than 5 inquiries per bureau. You got 3 bureaus, TransUnion, Equifax, Experian. So 15 in total, but no more than 5 inquiries per bureau. Your utilization cannot be higher than 30%. You want to have credit for at least 6 months to a year. And then finally, you want to have at least 2 personal credit cards of your own with limits of at least $2,500 a piece. All right. The reason I emphasize on your own is because ain't no shortcuts when it comes to funding. I see people, all the time, they think their credit's good because they went ahead and bought all these authorized user accounts. That ain't gonna work, right? If you don't know what the authorized user is, it's when you're piggybacking off of somebody else's credit, right? So if Chen had a card that was 10 years old, $20,000, perfect repayment history, low utilization, and I was like, yo, let me pay you this money, I can hop on that card. Now on my credit report, that same card will report. It will say I have a 10-year-old card, $20,000 limit, perfect repayment history, low utilization. It will make my score go up. It will appear to make my age go up. But if you look at your credit report, next to that card, it's gonna say authorized user. Like it's gonna be coded on your credit report as an authorized user card. Banks, if you can see it, a bank can see it, an underwriter can see it. And they're not gonna give you the credit for the work that somebody else did. Meaning, okay, like my score looks good, everything looks good now, but once they see that card, they're gonna remove it. They're gonna say this card does not belong to him. It's somebody else. It's somebody else did this. Right? They're not gonna give me no credit for the work that Chen did. So it's no shortcuts. These people like, oh, you get these authorized user cards, stuff like that. Nah. If you want to be eligible for funding, you're gonna build your profile the correct way. You gotta build it organically. So if you're somebody who has derogatory accounts, before getting any funding, you're going to have to go do credit repair. If you're somebody who doesn't have derogatory accounts, but you just, have like a lower limit cards, then you got to, get some increases on your current cards before you're eligible for funding. But if you're somebody who like, damn, you know what, Steve, I didn't think I was eligible because my business wasn't old enough or I didn't make enough money, but you hit all the marks. You got the score, you got the no derogatories, you got the no lates, you got low utilization, you got some high limit cards, You can get funding tonight. You can get funding tomorrow. So you know what, we're gonna talk that through. But right now, everybody here knows that they're eligible for funding or not. I don't like anybody to be stagnant, right? You either ready for funding or you need some building or some credit repair. If you need funding, you gonna go ahead and get funding. I can say you eligible for funding now. I can't say what tomorrow's gonna hold, what next month, next week, next year's gonna hold, right? Every nobody messes up their credit on purpose. You know what I mean? So if you get it, if you need it or you're eligible for it now, get it now. Because once you get the funding, if your credit gets messed up, they're not taking the funding away from you. So get it now. Again, it's not putting you in debt. If you get the funding and don't use it, you're not in debt at all, right? But it's always better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. If you're somebody who needs credit building, you gotta start building, right? You gotta start increasing these limits on the current cards that you have. And if you're somebody that needs credit repair, you gotta go do credit repair, right? If funding is the ultimate goal, the credit's not gonna fix itself. And if you don't fix that credit, you know, I mean, the fund is never gonna come. All right, so that's how you know if you're eligible for funding. So let's say you are eligible. All right, so how does your business have to look to get funding? So, you know, these things are not required. Everything I'm gonna say, you can definitely get funding without these things. However, they do help. So one, you want to make sure your business has a professional email address. Okay. A professional email address is not a Google extension, right? The name of my business is Legacy Consultations. Legacyconsultations at gmail.com is not a professional email. A professional email is one you gotta pay for. They crazy low, like $13 a month. So you know what I'm saying? Mine is info@legacy-consultations.com. I have it through Google's professional emails called G Suite. But it's only $13 a month. But what it does is it legitimizes my business to the bank. All right. You want to have a professional or not professional, you want to have a business phone number. A business phone number. So a number that is separate from your personal number. I have a personal number, I have a business phone number. You don't have to have two phones, you can, but you can also download apps. Like there's an app called Ring Central. So, you know what I mean, you can have your phone, it could be your same personal line. You have Ring Central, and if it's a business call, it will ring differently. It will be a different ringtone, it'd be a different voicemail, and it'll be a different phone number. So now on the application, they can see you have a business line, you have a personal line, you're separating your things. Besides that, you want to have a business address. Now, if you're somebody who has a brick and mortar, like Chen, barbershops, right? Barber schools, you know, a brick and mortar is the actual physical location. That's your business address. A lot of people don't have that. Like I do consultations, right? This is my office, but it's in my house. So I don't have an actual brick and mortar, but I'm not using my home address for two reasons. One, again, I want to have a separate business one to legitimize my business, but also your business information is public record. So if you use your home address and somebody knows the name of your business, they could look it up and now they got where you live. You know what I mean? So it's a safety reason, but also, you want to legitimize your business to the bank. And a website, depending on what type of business you do, right? I do consultations. I have to have a website. Let's say you're somebody who's doing real estate, right? You just buy properties and flip them, or buy properties and rehab them, buy properties and hold them. You don't need a website for that. You know what I mean? So depending on your line of business, you know what I mean, you would need a website or not. Now, I say all those things with an asterisk. Those things help legitimize your business. They can help you with getting funding. They're not a requirement. If you somebody who has a strong credit profile, there's no underwriter in the world that's going to say, all right, cool, you know what? Here you go, somebody with a 780. They never missed a payment in their life. They got, high limit cards. They got good revolving accounts. They've had credit forever, but they don't got a business phone number, so we're not going to approve them, right? It just doesn't work like that. So these things, they're recommended, but they're not required. And let's say you're somebody who already created a business, they use their home address, don't trip. You can file an amendment with the state, and then you can go ahead and get the business address updated. So, all right. We know how the credit has to look. We know how the business has to look. So now it's time to go to the banks to get funding. So again, people in the chat, I'm asking y'all this question. If you were to go get funding tomorrow, where are you going to go? If you were to go get funding tomorrow, where would you go? And nobody in the chat want to answer. If you were to going to get funded tomorrow, where would you go? Ain't no wrong answers. But I mean, I'll go ahead and answer, right? So a lot of people just wing it when they go for funding, right? It's like no strategy involved. They go to a bank because they heard of it. They go to a bank because somebody online, said something about it. But I want y'all to know every bank isn't for everybody, right? There's what 12 of us in here. If we all went for funding, there might be some banks that we go to that overlap, right? There might be some banks that we go to that overlap, but there's gonna be banks that Keith can get funding from that I can't. It's gonna be banks that Zandra can get funding from that I can't, and vice versa. So when you go for funding, you really want to break it down to a 3-tier strategy. All right. So tier number 1, these are banks that you have a good existing relationship with. You always want to go to them first. So a good existing relationship. All that means is you have an account with them, whether it's personal or business. You got maybe direct deposit, an auto loan, a mortgage, lending product, right? Just some bank that knows you. But I say a good relationship because you're not constantly negative in the account. You're not constantly late on your payments, right? So you want to go to these places first. And the reason being, banks are just like us, right? Some random person on the street came up to you and said, "Can I hold $100?" You gonna probably say no, all right? But if somebody who you known for a while comes up to you, "Yo, can I hold $100?" You still might say no, but you're more likely to think about it. You're more likely to say yes because you have a history with this individual because you know them. Banks are the same way. All right. So the stronger your personal relationship or the stronger your relationship, the more funding you're most likely gonna get. So you always want to hit your relationship banks first. After those, you're gonna hit the smaller banks and credit unions in your area, right? So the smaller ones, they call like regional banks, community banks. You always want to hit them next because for 2 reasons. One, they don't have the clientele, right? Like they have the money to give, but they don't have the people to lend it to. So like we're gonna use Chase for example. Chase is the biggest bank in the country. If Chase denies you, they're not tripping, right? Chase got 100,000 applications in the queue of people just wanting to get funded from them. These small, 1 to 3 institution banks, they don't have that luxury, right? But banks have to lend to survive. Banks make money 3 ways. They make money by investing on your deposits. They make money off of the fees they charge you, but their biggest money maker is off of the interest that you pay on lending products. So if a bank ain't lending, a bank ain't gonna be here no more. So banks have to lend to survive. So these smaller institutions, they like when you come in, they're like, "Yo, you got this good credit, you're in our area." They like throwing the money at you, right? So after you hit your relationship banks, you're hitting the smaller banks and credit unions in your area, and then finally, your 3rd tier, that's your big banks, your national banks, the ones that are dispersed throughout the country. Chase, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, Santander, TD Bank, Citizens, like your big banks you go to last, unless you have a good existing relationship with a big bank. All right, so when you go for funding, boom, relationship banks, smaller banks and credit unions in the area, and then finally you're gonna hit the big banks. So that's why I'm saying every bank isn't for everybody. So when you see these people online, like, "Yo, go to Key Bank. Key Bank, they're gonna give you, $50,000, no doc." Like, can they? Yeah, but just because they gave it to that person doesn't mean they'll give it to you. All right, there's some banks that won't even lend to you if you're not in the area. So I know like that stuff is sexy, it's intriguing, and everything like that. Follow this model. All right. Follow this model. You need to build a plan that is for you. All right. You got to have a sequence of this for you. Forget what everybody else is saying. You know what I mean? All the gimmicks and everything. Follow the plan that is for you. Because if you do that, you're going to be able to walk away with the funding that you need. All right. So now we know how the credit should look. We know how the business should look. We know the banks to go to. The final part, right? You can have all that. You can know all that. You can mess it up just by filling out the application wrong. All right, so just some tips when filling out the application. All right, the first part, the one that trips people up the most is when they ask how much the business has made. Okay. Now, what a lot of people don't know is it's a hidden question in there. It's asking you how much has the business made, or how much do you project the business to make. Okay. A projection ain't nothing but a guess. You don't want to have a business been around for a year, 2 years, right? And on the application, you say $0. Even though your business has made $0, you're saying, oh, my business hasn't made nothing. You're telling the bank, I don't think my business is going to make anything. And they're interpreting that as, well, why are we going to lend to you? Because you just told us you don't have a way to pay us back, right? If your business is new, again, it's a projection. So don't put zero, because you basically saying, I don't think my business is gonna make any money. Same thing. Well, if you don't think your business is gonna make money, why would we lend some to you? All right. So if you have a business, hasn't made money, don't matter how old it is, you want to hover around like this $80,000 to $85,000 range. It's like a safe zone. A lot of people, I talk to people about funding every day. They're like, well, I want to put 500,000 on the app, because the more I put, the more money I can get. And like, yes, but the more you put, the more risk it is to the bank, right? Because an underwriter looks and says, all right, this person got good credit. Oh, they said their business made 500,000. I can give more to them. But because I'm giving more, that's more of a risk for me. So before I give them this large amount, let me just verify what they need. So now they ask you for proof. You can't prove nothing. They got to go ahead and turn it down as a denial. All right. So that $80,000 to $85,000 range is the safe zone, because more people can make 80 to 85 than can make 500,000. So I'd rather you put those numbers where it minimizes the chances of them asking for proof, but now you walk away with something, right? I'd rather you walk away with, 10, 15,000 than you try to get 50 and walk away with nothing. All right. And with funding, right, we talking not just one bank, right? Let's say you get 10,000 here, 10,000 in 10 different banks, that's 100,000 in funding. So that's one tip for the app. Another one, they gonna ask you how much you make as the individual, right? So separate from how much the business make, how much do you make as an individual? If you work in a 9 to 5, you're pretty much talking about your 9 to 5 salary. Now, if you live with somebody, boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, whatever, you can put your household income, right? So if you make 50,000, the person that you live with make 80,000, in that spot, you can put 130. You can put 130, even if they're not on the app. You can put 130. You can combine the household income. So on the flip side of that, it asks you if you own a rent, and it asks you what your payment is. Of course, if you're not on the mortgage, you're not part of the lease for the rent, you could put zero. But let's say you are, right, and you still live with somebody, then you could split it in half. So if your rent or your mortgage is 1,500, but you live with somebody else, even if you pay the entire amount every month, you can split it in half. That's 750. So what you just did was you legally lower your DTI, your debt to income, right? People think debt to income is on your credit report. It's not. Your debt is on your credit report. Banks get the income based upon what you tell them. So if I'm increasing my income, right, and lowering my debt, it's a bigger gap between my debt to income, which means I have all this extra space where they can lend more to me, because now a large portion of my bills is not allocated, or a large portion of my income is not allocated to paying bills. Right. So you're able to do that. Before we get to Q&A, there are some more things with funding, right? So I got this term. It's called more businesses, more banks, right? More businesses, more banks. And this is how you can maximize your funding. So we just go to an example. So you got one business. You take that business to one bank, and they give you $10,000, and you stop. You got $10,000. But what if you take that one business with 5 banks, and those 5 banks give you 10,000 apiece? And now that's 50,000 in funding. But remember, I said, doesn't matter how old your business is. Doesn't matter how profitable your business is. That means once you make a business, as long as you have the credit, you can get funding right away. So what if you create 5 businesses, and you take 5 businesses to one bank, and they give you 10,000 a pop? That's still 50,000. right? But you got it from one bank rather than having to go to 5. But then when it gets spicy, is when you got 5 businesses and go to 5 banks at 10,000 a pop. That's 250,000 in business funding. Again, it doesn't put you in debt. It gives you $250,000 of availability. If you're doing real estate, what could you do with 250? Right? If you have you got a barber school, right? Or you got a barber shop, right? What can you do with that 250? That's how people get a ton of funding. They don't just rely on one business. They may be running one business. But you create multiple businesses, it opens up the funding opportunities. Because let's say I love the Chase Business Inc. card, and I get that card under business number 1, right? I can never get that card under business number 1 again. I can increase the limit, but I can't get that card again. But if I create business number 2, guess what? Business number 2 is eligible for that card again because it's a completely separate entity. So the more business I make, the more funding I can get. All right. Before we do Q&A, I'm gonna drop some links below. So in the chat, I just dropped 3 links. If you need credit repair, like we talked that first part, like damn, I don't qualify for funding because I got some derogatory marks, some late payments. Legacy Consultations. That's my credit repair site. You go ahead and sign up, completely free to sign up. I'll give you a call tomorrow. The second one, that's my Instagram page. If you are not following me, go ahead and follow me. I do try to put a lot of good information on there daily. And the third one, where it says schedule a call. This is for people that are in this group. It is a link just for people who are in this group. All right. I don't do calls on Thursdays, but I made it available for tomorrow. So, if you want to talk tomorrow, we can. Click that link if you are ready for funding. If you're ready for funding and you feel like you need help, you're ready for funding and you feel like you need some hand holding, you're ready for funding and you're just not sure what to do. And I say ready, I mean credit wise, right? Everything we talked about in the beginning about if you're eligible or not for funding, we're talking right there. You don't see the links. I'm gonna drop them again. I just put them back in there. Let me see if y'all see them. I just put the links in there. It said I went to the panelists. Maybe that's why. Hold on. I gotta drop it to the attendees. My bad. Everyone. All right, there they go. Y'all should have them now. All right, so that third link, that schedule a call. That's somebody who if your credit profile is ready for funding and you need help, you need hand holding, we can go ahead and do it. Why don't get business funding calls? What you mean? Why don't get business funding calls? Because these are funding. Why do I get business funding calls? I'm not sure what you mean, Roger. What you mean? But yeah, if you eligible for funding, you click that third one. So the first one is credit repair. The second one is if go ahead and follow my Instagram page. And the third link is for the people who profile is ready for funding. We go ahead and help you get some funding, kind of talk you through it. So, with that said, I do want to open it up for, Q&A if anybody has any questions about anything we talked about. Dun & Bradstreet, nope, you don't need a DMB number. You don't need a DMB number, and you don't have to have a pay debt score. You don't have to have business credit to get business funding. That's why I didn't even cover any of that stuff. The only 2 requirements are having a business and good credit. As long as you have those things, you're eligible for funding. If you just build your business credit and your personal credit is trash, you still can't get funding. Like I know people who they bought net 30 accounts, a bunch of them, like $13,000 invested in net 30 accounts, and they never worked on their personal credit. To this day, they still can't get any funding. So, it's not about your business profile, it's about your personal. You don't need an LexisNexis report to get funding. Like that's the thing. Like a lot of people online telling you this fluff. All you need is to have a business and good personal credit. Those are the only 2 requirements. All right, so so anybody have any questions? Y'all can put it in the chat. Y'all can, I don't know if Chen had y'all unmute yourselves. If not, you can definitely put them in the chat and I'll answer the questions before we get out of here. Have good credit, been in business 20 plus years, about funding because I'm thinking debt. Yeah, so you timid about funding, Roger, you got to change your mindset, right? And I get it. You 20 plus years, so you of a certain age. That's how we grew up, right? We grew up thinking that credit is bad because it's debt, but there's good debt and bad debt. So what I mean, Roger, if I went out and I bought a Louis Vuitton shirt or a Louis Vuitton hoodie, I seen it for like $3,000, right? That's bad debt because that's not gonna bring me nothing, right? If I take that 3,000 and invest into my business, whether it's marketing, whether it's systems to make it run faster, whether it's staff, that's good debt because that money I'm investing is gonna bring me a return. So you need to have the funding to grow and scale your business. All right. How do I get rid of late payments on student loans? So I when it comes to credit repair, the thing is you put in the burden of proof, it does not exist with you. The burden of proof exists on the creditors, right? So these student loan people have to prove that you were late. All right. So they have to prove that you were late. Now, one thing with credit repair, especially with student loans, excuse me, let's say, you got these student loans removed from your credit report. You still owe them. Okay. Credit repair does not absolve you of the debt. What it does is it removes it from your report to make your credit appear stronger. All right. So student loans can be removed. If you were to dispute the payments, you don't want to go to the creditor. So you're not going to the student loan people. You go into the bureaus that are reporting the late payments and tell them that you believe the information is inaccurate and that they need to verify the validity of it. Now the burden of proof is them. Now the bureaus have to reach out to the student loan people, and they have a 30-day time frame from when you sent that letter to do their investigation to prove that you were really late. A lot of times they can't do it. But I mean, there's multiple ways to do it. That's just like the most straightforward approach. Any other questions? No problem, no problem. So again, I'm throwing those links in the chat. Legacyconsultation.com if you need credit repair. If you are not following my Instagram page, definitely go ahead and follow it. And if you're somebody whose credit profile is ready for funding, like Roger, I think you definitely be a good candidate for this. Let's get on a call tomorrow. Go ahead, schedule a call. Let's talk about your credit. Let's talk about what it looks like. And if you are eligible for funding, let's talk about how we can help you get it. So what makes me different from the other Instagram gurus? I mean, my background. A lot of them a lot of them took a course or something, and like they were told, hey, you can make a lot of money doing this. Me, I did this myself, right? I was between banking and entrepreneurship. I've been doing this for 22 years. So all that I do, I've seen it all, right? Everything I do, like I said, is from a banking perspective. Also, like if you look at a lot of other people's content and mine, it's different. They saying the same thing, right? If you got 700 score, I'm gonna get you 250,000 revolving business funding. Again, BS, right? It's not just about your score; it's about your profile. We want to make sure, yeah, that the score is there, but there has to be substance behind it. So yeah, I don't like to do misleading information, even with what's it called? Even with like my content. Like I don't do what's that called? Lifestyle marketing. Well, they you gotta show off, your house, your car, your jewelry, stuff like that. Like, nah, if you look at my page, it's nothing but straight information. It's nothing but funding facts, credit facts, different hacks and stuff like that. Like all I want to do is help you get to the bag faster. Some other question. How long does it usually take to repair and build credit? Unfortunately, you can't put a time frame on it, right? Like credit repair is not like when you like order sneakers online and they send them to your house, right? You have the right to dispute. They have a right to counter dispute. Again, I see people online, guarantee results in 30, 60, 90 days. It just ain't the way it works. I've seen results in 9 days. I've also seen it take multiple months. So with credit repair, the biggest thing with it is waiting. Like you're waiting the majority of the time. So there is no time frame we can put on it when it comes to credit repair. What question should a person ask before paying them to help them with credit repair and funding? You want to vet the person, right? You want to know how long they've been doing it. You want to know their method. You want to see results. which is why I post results on my page like on the daily. But I mean, you want to see results. Like those are the things that you want to look for. You want to see like when they're talking to this person, does this person sound confident in what they're doing, or are they stumbling over their words? Are you asking them? Are you saying things to them, and they don't really have an answer to it? So you want to like vet these people out. Like you're interviewing them, right? These people are holding your credit. Holding your credit in their hands. All right, with the funding, take this information that I told you, right? Whether you're gonna do funding with me or whether you're gonna, do it with somebody else, have that conversation with them. Like, see if if they just have a preset list they send everybody to. If they do, that's a red flag. Get up out of there, right? See how they do funding. See if they're actually gonna build you your own sequence. See if they know, the different rules from different banks. It's a ton of information out there when it comes to funding, but the people who just kind of dive into it, they're the ones who aren't successful with it. The people that go into it with a strategy, they're the people that walk away with the funding. What are a few things people can do on their own to help with their credit? One thing, the biggest thing, don't get any new late payments, right? Don't get any new late payments if you're serious about your credit. And your utilization, right? You might have, a high utilization. Like really focus on paying that down. Really focus on getting utilization down. Like those are the two biggest factors that people do on their own with credit repair. There is no worse bill to be late on. Every bill is terrible to be late on because if you late on your mortgage, if you late on your credit card, if you late on your other loan, all of them will show up as a 30-day late payment. Now, if we talking like penalty wise, of course it's gonna be the biggest thing. So that's gonna be your mortgage. You know what I mean? But one late payment, no matter the product, will have the same effect on your credit. Secure credit cards are a good way to start building, right? Your secure cards do not count towards those two cards at $2,500 a piece. They don't count towards them. But if you're somebody who is just starting off building their credit, it's a great way to do it. So if you don't know what a secure card is, you putting that money down. So you put $1,000 down in your own cash. They hold that. They give you a card for $1,000. Now you get to start building credit. Once you're ready to graduate to an unsecured card, they will release that $1,000 back to you. So they're not gonna keep it unless you default on it. Why should we hire you instead of doing it yourselves? It's the same way that if your car break down, you don't just fix it yourself, right? You take it to an expert. You take it to somebody who's been doing it for a while, who knows the ins and outs and knows what they're doing. Like, could you technically fix your car yourself? Of course. But we don't, right? Matter of fact, I'm taking my car to the dealership to the shop tomorrow. Gotta get it fixed, right? So same thing. You want to take it to the expert, somebody who does it. Like, shoot, if I need a cut, right, I ain't gonna sit there and like, all right, let me get the mirror and try to do it. No, I'm gonna go to Chen. I'm gonna go to somebody like that, somebody who's been doing it for a while. You know what I mean? The biggest, I don't say everybody. A lot of people don't want to spend money, and I get it, but you gonna pay one way or another. You gonna pay with cash, or you gonna pay with your time, right? When you're paying somebody, and as long as somebody that's legit knows what they're doing, you're getting their history, you're getting their expertise. So now your success is able to be expedited. But if you try to do it yourself, you going through the trials and tribulations, you're going through the errors, and maybe you'll get there, but it's gonna take you longer. So you know what I mean? So not just I'm not just talking in terms of hiring me, but in terms of hiring in general. Do you have any success stories? Yeah. Matter of fact, if y'all go to my Instagram page, it's a text I received this morning from one of the people who I do funding with. We had the call on Friday. I posted like the link, not the link for the call, but like how long the call was. It was like 9 minutes 48 seconds. He hit me the day that he got 50,000. Right, a 10-minute call, $50,000. I mean, if you go to my page and you go to my highlight reels, there's one that says funding program. These are the people who are inside my funding program where I help teach how to get funding. You'll see their success stories. All I do is take text messages they sent me or post they made in the group and put it out there. So you'll see people who got 75,000 within a week, 60,000 in 2 days, 75,000 from one product, 100,000 from one product. Like the funding is out there. Like I know they saying like the president came in and put a freeze on funding. Not this type of funding. No, not bank funding. That money's out there. So as long as As long as you know how to do it, the funding is gonna come. What are red flags for fake credit and funding gurus? So for credit, I would say when they put a time frame, when they say they guarantee results in X amount of times, that's a red flag. That's a red flag because credit repair doesn't work like that. You cannot guarantee what the time frame of the results will be. For funding, the people that just focus on the score, the people that don't even ask you about your profile. When you talk to somebody like, oh, you got 700. Oh my God, we guarantee you X amount of money. Like one using the word guarantee, huge red flag. And if they don't focus on your profile, that's another red flag. Also, like look at the content. Like I seen somebody the other day, and I ain't putting people's name out there, but it was an ad for funding, and in his ad, he's next to like a Lambo truck. He in the ad, he's telling you that how much his watch costs. Like, what's that guy do with his expertise, right? Just he could have got that $20,000 watch or however much it was, just from people paying for his program, right? But that has nothing to do with your knowledge. Just because you can afford expensive things, can you help me get to what I need to get to? Like that. That's why on my page, all you see is information. You don't see nothing else but information on credit, funding, different cards, different programs, things like that. We have any other questions? I'm gonna drop them links one more time for y'all. The credit repair, my IG page, and then if you somebody who's ready for funding, let's definitely have this conversation. All I want to see is one, if you're ready, and then two, when I say ready, again, I'm talking credit profile wise. If your profile is ready for funding, and if so, go over exactly how I can help you get the funding. And Mr. Roger, like I said, we wanna talk about that mindset too, right? The mindset between debt or bad debt versus good debt. Because I mean, Chen will tell you, and any successful entrepreneur will tell you that the funding is vital. Like the funding is key. Chen, you there? Yeah, man.
Yes. All right. So
Perfect.
make sure you all click that link and get a phone call with Steve. I want to bring Steve on here because when you look on IG, you see a lot of credit gurus and you see a lot of gurus in all these different industries. And a lot of them are scammers. A lot of them are not vetted. They're not who they say they are. A lot of them will take somebody else's course and then they'll think that they are expert. I've had people take my course and then they'll try to teach somebody open a school and then that person will pay them and they done got stuck because they can't figure certain things out. So you all got to make sure that you all research these people, vet these people. But I want Steve to come on because he's somebody that you can trust. He's somebody that's been doing it a long time. He's been in the banking industry. I don't know if y'all heard that about him being in the banking industry, working in it and all of that. He didn't just take somebody online class and now they're a credit expert affiliate or whatever. No, or funding expert. So that's why I wanted to bring Steve on here so you all could have an expert. And hey, you may find somebody cheaper.
Yeah.
I'm sure you will if they took a course and now they're an expert, but you pay peanuts, you're gonna get a monkey price and you're gonna get a monkey job. And so sometimes it's best that you invest in yourself and have somebody to do that because it's very important for you all to have your credit right, this funding and all of that. And when we say getting funding and loans, sometimes people get scared. No, we need capital. Imagine if you had $1 million in capital right now, or $100,000 or $10,000. Imagine what you could do with that capital. So we got to change our mindset. Steve talked a lot about mindset, change your mindset. I mean, I'll give y'all one example as we leave because we got about 5 minutes left. 2020, the pandemic hit. Okay, Bitcoin was $7,000 and $10,000. Okay, I told my friends, hey, take the equity out of your house, buy Bitcoin. Of course, they said, no, I ain't doing that. I ain't taking my equity out of. I said, well, get you some capital, some loans, and buy that, invest in that. Well, no, even the Bible talks about getting loans. The woman whose husband died and then she had these kids to raise, what did she have? She just had a pot. What did he tell her to go do? Go borrow some more pots. Get it filled up with oil. Borrow the oil as much as you can. So sometimes if you're gonna borrow, like Steve said, now if you're gonna go buy Gucci, Louis, Prada, all that stuff, that's a waste of time. But imagine if you had invested in that. Say you had 300,000 acres, you took that up, bought 30 Bitcoin, 30 cryptos at 10,000 each. All right. 5 years later, anybody know how much is Bitcoin right now for one? Over $100,000. Now you turn 300,000 into 3 million. You can pay your house off or whatever. So a lot of times when we come in contact with people that have been exposed more or whatever, I know a lot of times when we don't know about things, we operate out of fear, false evidence appearing real. So we got to have an open mind. See, an open mind is having an open wallet. A closed mind is you're gonna have a closed wallet. And if you got a closed wallet, ain't nothing getting in, ain't nothing getting out. So I encourage you all to reach out to Steve, get a conversation. I mean, what's wrong with having a conversation with an expert?
No.
Y'all have nothing to lose. You have nothing to lose. And I asked all of those questions purposely because I know what a lot of you all are thinking. So I kept asking questions that people have asked me. I don't know anything about credit and funding and stuff. So I sent them to Steve. But those were questions that people had asked me. So I said, let me put these in here for Steve because he's the expert. And if you all want success, remember one thing: hire experts. Steve, anything you want to leave them with?
Don't be stagnant, right? All of you are in a different position, right? Some of you are ready for funding. If you're ready for funding, like Chan said, schedule the call, right? It's a 15-minute call. It's a free call, and you know what I mean. We'll find out if you're ready for funding, and if so, I'll walk you through the next steps. If you're not ready for funding because you need credit repair, you got these negative items, right? Get with credit repair, whether it's with me or somebody else. Get with credit repair because that credit will not fix itself, right? If you in a program like this and you have bad credit, all you are is the best note taker in the world because you got all this information that you can't do anything with. And if you're somebody who, you don't need credit repair, but you need credit building, right? You're like, okay, I don't have these derogatories, but I got some low limit cards. There was somebody here that said that. Work on increasing those cards. Work on increasing your limits. There's nobody that should be stagnant. Everybody in here has something to do. You're either ready for funding, need credit repair, or need credit building. These are the 3 categories you can fall in. If you're not ready for funding, you gotta get yourself in position to be ready for funding. If you are ready for funding, it's time to go get it. It's time to go get it right now. The funding they're still giving away the money right now. So if they're giving it away, we gotta take it.
All right. Well, I thank you, Steve. This is recorded, so if y'all want to see the replay, we'll have that. And keep up the great work, Steve. Glad that you continue to help people with their credit, something that we all need, and get the funding. All right.
Always a good time talking to you, man. I appreciate you having me on.
All right.
Y'all take it easy.